Well, hello and welcome to another broadcast from the My Expertise Online Academy. And today I'm really excited because today I've got with me Malcolm Sleeth. I've been working with Malcolm now for quite a few months. In fact, today we've been putting the finishing touches to Malcolm's new online course, which is called 12 Boxes, and I'll let Malcolm tell you all about that in a moment. But I've been working with Malcolm now for a little while, and we've got to the point where we're now putting the finishing touches to 12 Boxes. And I've got to say that, when you're working with people who have got a lot of experience, they've got a lot of understanding and know-how about their marketplace, and therefore have naturally got a lot of expertise, it makes the process really easy. So it's been a really joyous experience for me, and it's been a very easy experience, I've got to say. So, Malcolm, thank you for joining me today. And agreeing to talk with us about 12 Boxes, which we are going to get into some detail about in any second now. But also we're going to talk about your experience and about the experience of creating your online course. Because from memory, you've been thinking about creating this online course for a little while.
You could say a little while. Actually, it's a very long while.
So we'll share with us, how long have you been thinking about, or how long has the course, 12 Boxes, been on the cards?
Well, I've always believed that the way that what people want is information at the point that they actually need it. And my coaching practice has been based on that idea. So if you're going to see a client tomorrow and you want to think through what you're doing, it's useful to have a coach that you can call up and talk through the whole thing. But one of the things that I was doing a lot as a coach was explaining to people basic concepts. And, well, they were basic concepts to me. They were often entirely new to them. And doing the same thing again and again. And sometimes I would find that I hadn't actually been very good at explaining the basic concepts, and that somebody had missed something out that they would actually have found useful. And I thought it would be really good if, in their own time, at their own pace, they could tap into that, particularly if it was structured in a way they could say, "Oh, I need to know a bit more about that. I can't remember what that is. I'd like to go back to that course and check it out." So, how long? I would say at least 5 years, and probably longer.
So, of course, the natural question is, why has it taken you so long to actually, first of all, why didn't you do it on your own?
Yeah.
And why has it taken you so long to get to me in order that we could do it together? What was getting in the way?
Despite your amazing marketing, Michael, I didn't know you existed until about 6 months ago. So it was finding the right person. I had actually looked for people to collaborate with, people who were clearly having a reasonable degree of success in selling their own online courses. And what those people didn't have was a structure for thinking through how you would actually do it. And my own experience was that I would start writing stuff and get through what I might think was the first lesson or something, and then I would be saying to myself, "Oh, wait a minute, I've missed out something. No, I need to start somewhere else." So then I would start again. And I think I said to you the other day that if you go through my hard drive on my computer, you will find about 20 files of courses that have been started. And none of them have got beyond lesson 3. So the first thing was finding somebody who understood the process of structuring, who got it neatly, sorry, I'm going to have a glass of water.
Do.
Had got the process sorted and knew what order to do things in. And I mean, one of the most difficult things you'll recall of us working together, we worked together for 2 or 3 days, structuring the program. And it's my material.
Yeah.
I know it backwards, but that is a completely different thing from knowing what comes first, how to deal with stuff, where it should slot in. And I went away with one side of A4, bit like 12 boxes really, but one side of A4 with the whole thing mapped out. So I had a writing plan as a result of that. And I'd never had that before. So it took the pressure off me because I knew what I had to do next.
Yeah.
And I knew what I could leave out of sections
Yeah.
because it was going to be covered earlier or it had been covered later. And that made the writing process much, much easier.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And when you thought about creating it yourself, was it the scale of what you knew that was holding you back and causing the procrastination, or because we've talked about your natural perfectionism. I mean, you do like things to be.
Well, there's a bit of overwhelm involved.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, if I say it myself, what I'm really good at doing is working with individual people and picking up where they're starting from
Yeah.
and what their stumbling blocks are and applying 12 boxes to them really. You know,
Yeah.
where is this person starting from? What is it they don't see? What have I got to try and get them to see? I'm very good at that.
Yeah.
What's really hard is saying, okay, you're now going to be creating something for people that you've never met. You've got a rough idea about what their concerns are and where they're starting from. Where do you start explaining it?
Mm.
How do you start? You know, and that gave me the confidence to say, oh yeah, there's all this background stuff. And you made the suggestion, well, put that into the background, make that optional. If people want to go back to look at it, they can do.
Yeah.
But where are you actually going to start with the basic idea? And that was the unlocking of the whole thing. So instead of starting a module and then sort of rambling off into some interesting byway, you know, I was able to just carry on straight ahead and say, okay, what is this lesson about? What should people be able to do at the end of it, or what should they understand at the end of it? And I won't pretend that the writing process was easy. There were some parts that were really difficult and problematic, but that was because I was creating a case study, and what I was torn between was making the case study too realistic with too much detail, or making it easy to understand. And it was finding the right balance for that. But that was for me to do. Nobody else could really advise me about that.
So Malcolm, it's really obvious that you've had a lot of years' experience working as a consultant and also training consultants, and that's where that's the genesis of 12 boxes. That's where that's come from. But can you tell us, because I'm sure people are fascinated now, we all put consultants on a bit of on a pedestal. We think they're very experienced, they're the best of the best. But what was it that you saw that you thought they need something else, and I know what that something is? What was it?
Well,
there
were two stages to this. Where I started my career, which is quite a long time ago, I was working with people like what would now be called IT specialists, and this was in the days when people had whole basements full of computers, and PCs were a new thing, and you had to ration when people came onto the computer, because if they tried to do anything too complicated, it jammed it up. That kind of environment, big engineering firms doing that. So these guys in the IT departments of these firms thought that they were doing a technical job, but in fact, most of their problems came from customers, from users. They didn't think of them as customers. They thought of them as users.
Yeah.
And so what I had to do was to find ways of getting them to be comfortable with treating those people as customers, but not losing control of the technical situation that was supposed to be managing them. If you jump forward in my career, I eventually realized that what I was teaching people was influencing skills, got better at it, And and then on the strength of some experience in running a series of programs for a client, decided that I would start approaching management consultants. What I thought was that management consultants would know everything and that they would be the experts in selling consultancy. What I found was many of them were starting from exactly the same place as the IT people running the big computer in the basement. So that was the first learning point. The second learning point was I developed this precursor of 12 boxes, which was based on a bit of psychology that we needn't go into now, but I'm happy to talk about it another time. And I was trying to work out how I could help people who were using other people's systems. And I remember exactly where I was. I was on the top floor of a house in just off the old Kent Road. I was looking out of the window. The London Eye had been there a couple of years, and I saw it rotating and glinting in the sunlight. And I'd got a sheet of A3 paper on my desk, and it was covered in scrawl. And I was trying to work out, well, where does this thing that I've got fit into what other people are teaching? And then I had this kind of brainstorm moment when I realized that what other people were teaching fitted into the framework I'd got. And at that point, you think I've either completely lost it and I've gone mad, or I'm really onto something here. And that was the point at which I started to integrate 12 boxes, and in the sense that it acts as a kind of receptacle for things like, Cialdini influencing, behavior analysis, all kinds of things fit into this framework. It's not the other way around. It's not an add-on. It's a one-stop shop. Yeah. And since then, I've been developing it and refining it and finding out how people have found it useful. And basically, it's the story of my life. My clients have taught me what I know, because all the time I've been trying to help them solve the problems that they're confronting. And the nice thing that I've discovered, and I take no credit for it because the underlying framework was always there, is that 12 boxes is very, very versatile. And if you think hard enough about it, you will find the answer in that framework, which is a bit humbling, really.
Hi, I hope you're really enjoying Malcolm's story. I find it truly inspirational, that this guy has got to this point in his life, wanting to create an online course for many, many years, and he's finally done it. I just think it's an amazing story. Now, if you'd like to find out how you can create your own online course, why not book a coaching call with me? All you have to do is go to MEOcall, that's MEOcall.uk, and you can get access to my schedule, and you can put yourself a slot in my diary, and we'll spend 30 to 45 minutes on the phone talking about your ideas for creating an online product or an online course, and I'll spend that time just coaching you and helping you come to the right ideas and the right conclusions of what your best product would be. So before you do that, just think about your strongest reason for why you'd want to create your own online course. Then go to meocall.uk and book a call with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Very specifically then, we know it's for consultants, we know it's for people selling consulting services, but what does it actually do for them?
Right. The biggest problem that consultants have, and indeed it's not just consultants, it's anybody selling a high value complex service, it's abstract.
Yeah.
So it's not like selling a car. If you go to a car showroom and you want to buy a car, the salesperson can walk you around the car, can open the doors, can show you all the features, can show you the nice little light that comes on and projects the logo of the car manufacturer on the pavement when all of those things you can see. Yeah. But you can't see that with consulting. Consultants tend to do, without any guidance, is that they want to be helpful. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't be consultants. Yeah. They like solving problems. So they sit in front of the client tells them the problem, and then the consultant tells them the solution. And then they have a discussion about what it's worth, how much the client should pay for it. Now, there's an important element that's missing out of this process, which is that the client has not been asked what it's worth to them. Right? So the consultant's given the solution and very often given away a big chunk of intellectual property.
Yeah.
The client now knows what the solution looks like and can go and find somebody else cheaper to do it. It's what I call the brother-in-law problem. Oh, that's what you were going to do. My brother-in-law does that kind of, that problem. So what we show people how to do is to have a conversation with the client, and instead of saying, "Oh, this is what I'll do for you," is to say, "This is what you seem to want," and express it in a particular way. We have a formula for doing that. If we could do that, how would that help you? What would be going on? And when the client starts to think about what would be going on that would be different when they get that solution, it's then a small step to say to the client, well, okay, what difference is that going to make to your business, to your public service organization costs? You can ask that question and you can get the client to tell you what the value of your proposition is to them without the client actually knowing what it is that you're going to do.
Perfect.
Okay. And that's the important thing. You establish value first. It's based on what the client is telling you. So the client is feeling, this person understands me. This person gets it. This person can see the world through my eyes. You don't have to agree with the client to do that, but you just have to know how to show the client that you can see the world from their point of view. You do that, you ask the question, you get to know the value, then you can sit down and have a discussion about how you can make it work together. That's where your technical solution comes in.
Perfect. Now, I mean, I have in the past sold complex services myself, and I know that it can be, it's tricky to say.
And you were good at it too, yeah.
But one question, and I'm sure people will be wondering this, and I think I know the answer, but the fact that this is a very structured conversation now, does that not take the more natural way of communicating out of the conversation because of the structure? Does it restrain the conversation?
Well, think of it this way. Okay, if you imagine yourself in, I don't know, Piccadilly Circus, and you ask me the way to get to Paddington Station, I can tell you how to go to Paddington Station step by step. I can give you a set of instructions. I can say, first you do this, then you do that, then you take the tube here and do so and so and so and so. And as long as all the tube is working as it should do, as long as there are no roadworks that are going to get in the way, so you have to take a detour, that will work. Now, that's what a lot of people think a structured conversation is. You do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Now, you show me a client that has a conversation in that way. There aren't any. They go off, they ramble, they tell you a story. You make a comment, it reminds them of something, they go down a side road. All of that is happening. The structure is like a map.
Yeah.
So although there are only, a dozen boxes, actually there are 4 levels and 3 particular areas. So it's quite easy to remember. This map it doesn't matter where you are on the map, you can always find your way. You know where you are. That's what the structure is about. Now, there are certain things which I call handy household hints, where I can say, okay, ask the question in this way, then do this. Then there is a certain order that seems to work better than other orders.
Yeah.
But structure comes from something in your head that tells you, do I know this? If I know this, how does it affect that? So what's happening is you're building up a model of the client's situation in your head. The client doesn't feel that it's structured at all because your attention is completely on them, right? And they feel that you're interested in them because, of course, you are.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't feel forced. Then you get to a point where you think, okay, I think I've got this. And you can summarize to the client in the form of a story, like this is what you're trying to do, this is what's getting in the way. So you need a resolution that looks like this, right? You can feed back that story and check that out. But it's only at those particular points that the structure becomes apparent to the client. And they're not really interested in that because they're saying, oh, yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah. So what this enables you to do is actually deliver value to the client and help them focus before you've even delivered any services. You're building up your credibility with the client because the structure is enabling you to handle complex information and get on top of it in a way that builds confidence with the client.
I love that map analogy because, you know, the fact that it gives them a map, it means that the consultant who are selling such a complex service can get lost. But if they use this to look down at the map, yes, they know always where they are.
Yes,
so they
exactly.
can't get lost.
Yes, yes. You can draw a little grid on a piece of blank paper.
Yeah.
And just put words into that grid, and you will know exactly where you are. That's how it works. Yeah.
So why is it called 12 boxes again?
Well, there are 12 boxes. And the reason there are 12 is that there are 4 levels of awareness about 3 things. So the 3 things are the client's awareness of their situation. Right? The second thing is the problems that are associated with that situation. And the third thing is your solution. And each of those things has 4 levels of awareness. So there's existence, I can see it, right? So a client might be moaning about something, and what you put your finger on is that a particular part of their business is not performing optimally. That's a fact. You have to draw their attention to that fact. So that's existence. Of course, the client might say, well, so what? I don't care about that. So for the client, that is not significant.
Yeah.
You have to get them to the next level, which is that the situation is significant. And then the third level is what we call potential change possibilities. Now, that sounds a bit of a long-winded phrase, but we all have potential change possibilities. We see somebody driving a nice car, and we say, "Oh, I'd like a car like that." That's a general change possibility.
Yeah.
Right? A particular change possibility or specific one is where we go to the car showroom and we say, "Well, I'll have that in blue." Mm. So those are the 4 levels. Do I see it? Is it important to me? Can I see my situation changing generally because of what other people are doing? And finally, can I see my situation changing specifically? Those are the 4 levels. And you can apply that to the situation, similar ideas to the problems, and also the solution. So that gives you your map, which happens to look like a bit of a staircase, but that's why there are 12 boxes. 3 things, 4 levels.
Perfect. And actually, despite the fact that it's 12 boxes, it's actually very simple, isn't it?
Yeah, just have to remember 7 things, which I'm told is just about the top limit of what people can hold in their head at any one time.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. So, you've been a consultant for a long time. Why did you want an online course? What is the online course? What is the online version of what you do going to do for you?
Well, there are clients who think that I'm, quite useful and have got something useful to say, but not many people know about that. And it's not available to a lot. I've only got a limited amount of time that I can devote to clients. So the great thing about 12 boxes is you don't necessarily need a Malcolm Sleeth to guide you through it in terms of dealing with your particular situation. Once you get it, you can apply it. So I think what drives me, why it's important to have an online course, is to enable people, as many people as possible, to get this content in as short a space of time, but at a pace that they want to do it at, rather than because consultants don't have time to go on courses. Basically, they might have a day, they might not have a day, but if you go on a course for a whole day, there's a lot of information to absorb.
Yeah.
How are you going to remember that? So you probably get one or two ideas which you then incorporate into your work. That's the end of the story. If you have an online course, it means that certain situations are going to come up and you're going to think, what do I do about that? This gives you the reference point to go back to.
Yeah.
And you can always chat to me about it online if something comes up that you need a bit of help with.
And what about your own lifestyle? How is it going to help your own lifestyle, do you think?
Well, like all of us, I'm getting on a bit. The energy level, you become aware that perhaps there isn't so much energy around.
Very real. Yeah.
There are people that you love that you want to pass stuff on to. So it's a bit of a legacy thing.
Yeah.
And it also means that I will be able to focus my one-to-one efforts and group efforts on the kind of work I really want to do, as opposed to simply trying to sell my time in order to earn a comfortable living or whatever it is. So it will make a difference from that point of view.
So it could potentially be quite transformational to your business, but also to your personal life as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is the idea, yes. And I think it's going to um, I think it's going to put me in touch with quite a lot of interesting people,
Yeah.
because I think this package will appeal to
Yeah.
a wide range of people that I've perhaps never heard of. I mean, there's a big global market out there, and a lot of people are prepared to. The package at the moment will be in English.
Yeah.
A lot of people in consulting work in English as a first consulting language, and and even if it's not their first consulting language, it's certainly their second. So I think it will introduce me to people in growing markets that I didn't even realize there was a consulting market in.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Well, that's been fabulous, Malcolm, and thank you so much for sharing so much about 12 boxes, because I'm really excited now. I mean, we've been working together for a little while now. We've finally completed the filming. It's not actually going to be many weeks before 12 boxes is available.
Yeah.
So if you are in that space, if you are a consultant, if you are in that space, look out for 12 boxes, because it's really going to be beneficial, and I think it's really going to transform the way that you work with clients, especially if you're the type of consultant that is selling complex services. I think it's working from the inside and seeing how it's put together. It's really well structured, it's really well put together, and Malcolm's made it very accessible. So I think you've done a great job, Malcolm.
Thanks.
So
And it's been a pleasure working with you. I have to say, there was that first hurdle that we had to overcome, which was how do we structure this material in a way.
yeah,
It's I mean, a lot of, if I refer to myself as an expert, it's not because I'm being big-headed, but I've been doing this for a long time. There's a lot of stuff I know,
exactly, yeah,
and it's you have to really work hard to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's starting.
yes,
And somebody you don't know.
yeah,
So I think the professional help really helps there. I think the other thing is that although I do courses, I'm not afraid to be in front of people. I'm reasonably articulate and all the rest of it. It is quite different if you're trying to produce something that people are going to watch, and people are going to be comfortable with watching. And I've had feedback from friends with my best interests at heart saying, Malcolm, you don't seem to be very confident on video, what's going on with you, sort of thing. And as a result of working with you, I've got used to finding a style that works on video. And it feels quite strange to do it.
yeah,
Right? But that is the experience of a lot of people doing it. It's actually getting over that hurdle
yeah,
and stop being self-conscious and just trust the feedback that you're getting from an expert. And Michael, you are an expert, and that you trust that you take the direction. If Michael says, I need a little bit more up and down and a little bit more musicality in the delivery, then you try and do it. And if you if he says slow down and savor the words, you slow down and savor the words. All of that gives you the confidence to feel that you're getting your message across in the way that you would like to get across. so that you stop being self-conscious. You're doing what the man tells you to do,
Yeah.
because the man knows what works.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think your experience of getting over that hurdle is no different to a lot of people. You know, a lot
No,
of people
sure.
feel
Yeah.
that, you know, that discomfort, if you like. So I'm really excited now to see 12 boxes hit the market. I think it's going to be wildly successful. I'm really looking forward to seeing your success, because you've earned it, you deserve it, you've put the work in, not just recently, you've put the work in for years,
Yeah.
you know, for years now. So this is going to be the culmination. You know, it's like that what people say, oh, Malcolm, an overnight success. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
taken him however
Yeah.
many years to become an overnight success. So you deserve it. I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks so much for taking the time, Malcolm, and I'm looking forward to the next stage.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, take care.
Take care.